Hello everyone and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to a news cycle on Global Television, coming to you live from the nation's capital Abuja. I am Uyi Agmofwebe, reminding our viewers that we are on DSTV channel 365 and start times 276. The Supreme Court has upheld the election of Senator Monday Okpebholo as Governor of Edo State, dismissing the appeal filed by the People's Democratic Party candidate Asue Ighodalo. A five-member panel led by Justice Lawal Garba ruled unanimously that the appellants failed to provide sufficient evidence of overvoting and non-compliance with the Electoral Act. The Apex Court also noted that the People's Democratic Party only challenged results in 395 out of 4,519 polling units and that their witnesses did not substantially prove the case. In the meantime, the People's Democratic Party candidate, Dr. Asue Ighodalo, has condemned the Supreme Court's affirmation of Governor Okpebholo's election, describing the judgment as a deep betrayal of the people's will. In an emotional statement, Ighodalo vowed not to retreat or forget the support of his followers, saying the struggle for a better Edo State continues. He alleged that the 2024 poll was rigged in favor of the All Progressives Congress APC, insisting that the Apex Court failed to deliver true justice despite acknowledging the ruling as final. In a different development, the Senate has named Senator Anyekon Bassey as the new chairman of the Committee on Diaspora and Non-Governmental Organizations. Senate President Godswill Akpabio announced the appointment during plenary, confirming Bassey's replacement of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who is currently on suspension. Akpoti-Uduaghan was reassigned to the Diaspora and NGOs Committee in February after she was removed as chair of the Senate Committee on Local Content during a minor reshuffle. Nigeria's First Lady Oluremi Tinubu is reinforcing the push for women's inclusion in governance, describing it as an act of charity, not as an act of charity, but a recognition of competence and diversity. Her message was delivered during a special session of the National Assembly Open Week focused on gender representation. Our correspondent Anietie Patrick now reports.
At a high-level engagement on constitutional reforms at the National Assembly, the First Lady of Nigeria, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, emphasized the urgent need to increase women's participation in governance. Represented by the chairperson of the House Committee on Women Affairs, Honorable Kafilat Ogbara, the First Lady threw her weight behind the proposed constitutional amendment to reserve 10% of legislative seats for women and 5% for persons with disabilities.
As we reflect on Nigeria's democratic journey, we must be honest about where we are and where we bold to be and where we need to go. The truth is that women remain significantly underrepresented in all levels of governance, despite making up nearly half of the population. This is not just a question of fairness, it is a matter of strengthening our democracy and deepening our national development.
This comes as Nigeria continues to fall short of the United Nations recommended 35% gender quota. Of the 469 lawmakers in the 10th Assembly, only 20 are women. In the 2023 general elections, just 48 of over 1,000 female candidates were elected to state assemblies, a mere 4.7% success rate. The session drew stakeholders from civil society, political parties, and the international development community, all calling for urgent legislative action to bridge the gender gap.
The 360 seats remain. What is being sought to be created in the special seats bill is additional seats that will increase women representation, either by the fact that these new seats are added or by their ability to contest with men in the existing 360 seats. So no seat is being taken away from any man. It's really that, as the minority leader, Right Honorable Kingsley Chinda mentioned, it is of course very embarrassing to go to meetings internationally where Nigeria's votes are reduced simply because there are not enough women in those meetings.
The special seats bill is not a favor to women. It is a national necessity. It is a constitutional corrective long overdue to ensure democracy works for all citizens. It is about justice, representation, and the sustainable development of our dear country, Nigeria.
As constitutional amendments inch closer to reality, advocates say real change will depend not just on legislation, but on sustained political will and public support. Anie T. Patrick, Global Television News.
Oh, thank you so very much, Aniete. In a bid to address capacity gaps in social standards operations in Nigeria, the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs has organized a capacity building workshop for the staff of the ministry and her implementing partners on the social standards node of the Sustainable Procurement, Environmental and Social Standards Enhancement Project. Minister of Women Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, who was represented by Coordinator, Sustainable Procurement, Environmental and Social Standards Enhancement Project, Benjamin Okweja, says the workshop is aimed at addressing the deficiencies which often impacts negatively on the development of communities. Here is Sadia Yakubu's report.
Gender-based violence, communal clashes, displacement from ancestral homes, acquisition of land, labor and working conditions have continued to devastate individuals, families and households, thereby affecting their overall physical, social, psychological and economic well-being. The Minister of Women Affairs, Iman Suleiman Ibrahim, who was represented by the Coordinator, Sustainable Procurement, Environmental and Social Standards Enhancement Project, Benjamin Okweja, said the project is centered to developing academy and certification programs to ensure practitioners in the social development, procurement and environment sectors of the economy project are equipped to meet the global standard as well as improve service delivery.
As you are aware, the social standards node of the SPECI project is of particular interest to the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs and the entirety of the Nigerian vulnerable and disadvantaged group, which the Ministry and her implementing partners on the social standards node of the SPECI project are represented.
He says the federal government will not rest on its oars to ensure adequate implementation of all provisions of social development, procurement and environment sectors of the economic project's development objective, as well as contribute to increasing the supply of skilled workers.
As it continues to devastate individuals, families and households, thereby affecting their overall physical, social, psychological and economic well-being. It is most importantly for this reason that the Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, Federal Ministry of Labour and Employment, and Federal Ministry of Housing and Urban Development will not rest on their oars.
The training, which is online, has undoubtedly become a vital tool in the 21st century, offering flexibility, accessibility to update knowledge given the widespread use of ICT. Sadia Yakubu Yahya, Global Television News.
We appreciate you, Sadia, for following up on that development for Global Television. Let's bring you other news now. Minister of Interior Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo has met with United States Ambassador to Nigeria, Richard Mills, in Abuja, alongside immigration and ministry officials to discuss the United States government's revised visa rules for Nigerians. Dr. Tunji-Ojo described the engagement as constructive, saying both sides committed to stricter overstay controls, improved data sharing, and enhanced adherence to global immigration best practices. The United States Embassy had earlier announced that most non-immigrants and non-diplomatic visas issued to Nigerians will now be limited to single entry with a 3-month validity period. In another development, the federal government has commenced the 7th phase of mass trials for terrorism suspects at the Kainji facility in Niger State, with renewed emphasis on the rule of law and justice. A National Counter-Terrorism Center Coordinator, Major General Adamu Laka, said the trials reflect Nigeria's commitment to lawful counter-terrorism and the progress made in strengthening legal capacity. Attorney General Lateef Fagbemi commended the collaboration of security and legal stakeholders, noting that the trials are essential to holding suspects accountable while preserving due process. President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, has called for deeper economic relations between Nigeria and Morocco. During a meeting with Moroccan Ambassador Moha Kwali Tagma, the President of the Senate lauded Morocco's growing investment presence in Nigeria, including a $1.5 billion fertilizer plant in Akwa Ibom. He announced the creation of a Nigeria-Morocco Friendship Group in the National Assembly to further boost parliamentary and commercial cooperation. The Senate has directed a joint committee to probe the surge in fraudulent investment schemes following the 1.3 trillion naira collapse of the crypto bullion exchange, otherwise called CBEX. Senator Adetokunbo Abiru raised the motion citing the devastating psychological, social and financial toll of CBEX, MBA Forex, as well as MMM on millions of Nigerians, warning of weak regulatory oversight. Lawmakers criticized the inaction of agencies like the Securities and Exchange Commission, the Central Bank of Nigeria, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, and resolved to hold a public hearing to determine answers from relevant institutions within 1 month. Still on legislative matters, the House of Representatives, the DOR Committee on Plateau Security Challenges, has invited Governor Caleb Mufwang, former governors, and other key stakeholders to a conference aimed at addressing ongoing violence in the state. Chairman of the committee, Wale Hamid, said the forum would facilitate inclusive dialogue and policy development to stop the killings. Hamid noted that stakeholders are encouraged to submit memoranda to support the committee's work. The Nigeria Customs Service says it has recorded significant progress in its efforts to protect the country's biodiversity and stop the illegal wildlife trade. Controller General of the service, Adewale Adeniyi, who was represented by the National Public Relations Officer of the Nigeria Customs Service, Abdullahi Mewada, disclosed this while handing over intercepted seized donkey parts to the National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency at the service's government warehouse in Karu, Abuja. Our business correspondent, Kikelemo Okere, now tells us more.
Addressing newsmen at the event, the Comptroller General of Customs, Adewale Adeniyi, who was represented by the National Public Relations Officer of the Nigerian Customs Service, Assistant Comptroller Abdullahi Mewada, says the seizure is part of the ongoing effort to curb illegal wildlife trade and protect endangered species in line with the Nigerians' obligation under the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora. Mewada says wildlife trafficking is often connected to other crimes like money laundering, arms smuggling, and other illegal financial flow. He added that Customs is investing in surveillance technology, species identification tools, and digital forensic to support investigation and prosecutions.
Some of the pangolin scales we intercept, some come from Central African Republic, through Cameroon to Nigeria. Nigeria will be used as a transit hub to move these items out of the country via our ports. So those are some of the interceptions now. If you look at the movement of cash, the movement of these items, there is a close connectivity between some of these crimes and other form of criminality. This is where
he reaffirmed the service commitment to enforcing Nigeria's custom lot site agreement and environmental regulations. Mewada therefore urged the public, especially those in border areas and transport hub, to report any suspicious activities related to wildlife products. While receiving the seized donkey part on behalf of the National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, a representative of the Director General, Professor Innocent Bariko, commended the Nigerian Customs for its unwavering commitment to fight against illegal wildlife trafficking. He noted that such seizures are critical to protecting Nigerian biodiversity and upholding its international obligations on the sites.
That with dedication, strategic partnership, and unwavering commitment, we have significant headway in this vital fight. In the last 6 months alone, we have rescued over 220 live animals.
He reiterated NESRA readiness to continue working closely with customs and other enforcement agencies to dismantle wildlife trafficking networks and ensure that offenders face the full weight of the law. Kike Lomo Okeri, Global Television News.
Our business correspondent Kike Lomo Okeri there for us. The National Identity Management Commission, NIMC, says Nigeria's National Identification Number NIN database has surged by 20% to 120 million as of June 2025, with over 10 million new entries this year alone. The Commission is deploying Youth Corps members under the World Enrollment Initiative to reach remote areas and hit a 95% registration target by December. Lagos, Kano, and Kaduna states now lead in enrollment figures, while 56.5% of the total enrollees are male and the rest female. You're watching Global Television, and this is the news cycle. When the rest of the broadcast returns shortly, Nigeria, European Union sealed €20 million deal to boost museum, film, and digital creative industries. Details coming shortly, plus foreign and sports stories for you on the other side of this break. Please do stay with us. Thank you so very much, everyone, for staying with us here on the news. The second part of this broadcast now returns with business, with Nigeria and the European Union having sealed a €20 million initiative aimed at strengthening partnerships between museums, supporting film festivals, and advancing digital creative industries across the country. This was disclosed in a statement issued by the Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to the Minister of Arts, Culture, Tourism, and the Creative Economy. The agreement was announced during a high-level visit by a European Union delegation led by Ambassador Gauthier Miyont, head of the European Union delegation to Nigeria and the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to Minister Hannatu Musawa in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. The federal government has announced plans to raise $32.8 billion in investments to execute the Mission 300 Compact, with $15.5 billion expected from the private sector. Minister of Power Adebayo Adelabu stated this during the Mission 300 stakeholders engagement held in Abuja. He says the initiative is aimed at providing electricity access to 300 million underserved people across Africa. Let's go to the foreign scene now, where President Donald Trump has hosted leaders of Gabon, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Mauritania, and Senegal at the White House to discuss investment opportunities. President Trump praised Africa's resource-rich nations and signaled the countries may avoid United States tariffs, pledging more economic collaboration during the state's dining room lunch. Gabon and Senegal pitched for foreign direct investment in mining and tourism, while a broader Africa-US summit is expected around the United Nations General Assembly in September of this year. Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital in Gaza says at least 15 Palestinians, including 8 children, have been killed in an Israeli airstrike near a health center in Deir al-Balah near Gaza. The victims were reportedly queuing for nutritional supplements when the strike occurred. The Israeli military confirmed targeting a Hamas operative in the area, but acknowledged civilian casualties were under review. Despite ongoing ceasefire talks in Doha, a deal remains elusive. Kiev has been rocked by another deadly Russian drone assault, killing 2 and injuring at least 13 others across multiple districts. Authorities reported massive fires in residential and commercial areas as wreckage from intercepted drones rained down on the capital. Ukraine's military has warned of more drone and missile threats just 2 days after Russia launched its largest aerial attack yet, involving 728 drones. Let's find some relief from the world of sports now. Nigeria's Super Falcons will seek early qualification to the Women's Africa Cup of Nations 2024 quarterfinals as they face Botswana after a dominant 3-0 win over Tunisia in their Group B opener. With goals from Oshoala, Babajide, and Ihizwo securing a strong start, the team is confident of building momentum at the Labi Zuli Stadium in Casablanca. Coach Justin Madugu says the squad, blending experience and youth, is focused and injury-free as they aim to take each game as it comes. Sounds quite reassuring there now. Nigeria's Flying Eagles will kick off their 2025 WAFU B Under-20 Cup title defense today, Nigerian time at 6 p.m. with a high-stakes clash against host Ghana at the Pram Pram Center in Accra. Coach Aliu Zubeiru's side, led by skipper Daniel Obameyi, are two-time defending champions and are using the tournament to build towards the FIFA Under-20 World Cup in Chile. Group A also includes Benin, while Group B features Ivory Coast, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Togo, with the tournament running until July 23. Excitement is building in Ekene, Ogun State, where 28 Super Eagles B players are training for the 2025 African Nations Championship, CHAN. The team is aiming for success in the tournament scheduled for August in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. Head coach Eric Shell earlier released a 35-man provisional list. Players such as Unduka Jr. and Aniekeme Okon expressed confidence and gratitude, saying camp morale and intensity are high. Nigeria will face champions Senegal, Sudan, and Congo in Group D. Let's turn away from football for a second now. Novak Djokovic has reached a record 14th Wimbledon semi-final after defeating Flavio Cobolli in 4 sets to edge closer to a historic 25th Grand Slam title. He will face world number 1, Jannik Sinner, who brushed past American Ben Shelton in straight sets despite pre-match injury concerns. In the women's draw, Iga Swiatek and Belinda Bencic also advanced, setting up a semi-final clash of Grand Slam winners. Things appear to be sizzling now across the world of sports, and Global Television will continue to follow and track those developments for you. In the meantime, that's a full cycle here on the news. A quick reminder that Global TV is on DSTV channel 365 and Star Times 276. Kindly follow us across all social media platforms using the handle at Global TV NG, as well as others now showing on your screen. I'm Uyi Agmofwegbe. On behalf of the entire team that has made this broadcast possible, we say thank you for watching and have a good evening ahead of you.